have some brand new video just coming in showing another angle of the moments before the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. As we're going to watch this video together, it's about a minute long. You can see the video moving around. You can also, let's listen in together. So you'll see it, and let's listen to what they say.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
On the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof again.
If he was doing the job, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful place.
I mean, you can hear the way it's described is the crowd there, as you can see, spotted the gunman more than a minute before the shooting, and you can see them, hear them calling out for law enforcement to try to draw their attention to it. Just remarkable in seeing how this played out and how close he was, some 450, 500 feet from Donald Trump, and we know what happened in the minute after that. Joining me right now is the Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He's also a Biden campaign co-chair. Another angle, we know what happened after that video, Senator, but seeing that gunman climbing onto the roof and hearing people around trying to call out for law enforcement, it's still shocking.
Kate, that is a shocking video. That brings home just how lucky we are as a nation that we are not waking up to a genuine tragedy in Butler, Pennsylvania. It is incomprehensible that a young man with a rifle, with a AR-style weapon, was able to get up on a roof and get that close to the president and get off several shots before he was killed by a Secret Service sniper. He was just inches away from killing former President Trump. I am so grateful that he failed in that. We all need to reflect prayerfully on the loss of life by Corey Compertore, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, a volunteer fire chief and father of two who died at a political rally protecting his children and the others who've been injured. Look, Kate, I've been to plenty of events with presidents. The Secret Service does often rely on state and local law enforcement to help expand their perimeter, but it's hard for me to understand how a roof that close, that accessible was not secured. And the Homeland Security Committee of the Senate under the leadership of Chairman Gary Peters has already announced they're going to conduct an oversight hearing. You just had Secretary Mayorkas on, who said they will be conducting a prompt, independent investigation of what is obviously a security failure. But I also think, Kate, it's important to reflect on President Biden's Oval Office address last night, where he urged all of us to bring the temperature down. You're in Milwaukee. Later tonight, the Republican convention starts. And it's my hope that this will last more than a day or two, that we will, in fact, both parties, both of our conventions, and all of us who are elected, do a better job of being better role models for our country, of not just reflecting or amplifying the division in our country, but showing how we can have differences of views, differences of political perspectives and agendas, and yet speak of each other in more respectful tones and recognize just how horrifying a moment this is in our modern American history.
President Biden calling on Americans in that Oval Office address to cool down the rhetoric. Donald Trump has said in an interview he's torn up his speech, which was going to go hard after President Biden and the administration, and now he wants to focus on unity in his speech at this convention on Thursday. But Senator, you're getting at it a little bit. It's a tough question, because if past is prologue, there's not a good chance that this sticks. How do you really bring about and keep hold of that unity?
Kate, this is a challenge that I've worked on now for years with bipartisan partners. Senator Cornyn and I introduced a bill that would reinvest in the teaching of civics and in helping high school students, college students, civics organizations across our country teach how to reduce conflict. There are grassroots organizations across our country encouraging people to put down the cell phones and get off of social media and get out there and roll up your hands and roll up your sleeves and get busy in the hard work of respecting each other and hearing each other. I'll remind you that President Biden, in his inaugural address, called on us to see each other not as political enemies, but as Americans with just different perspectives and views. And I do think that's hard work. I think it calls on all of us to reflect that there have been too many close calls. Kate, this shocking event in Butler is just the latest in a string that have happened in recent years. We saw an attempt at kidnapping and assassinating Governor Whitmer of Michigan, an attempt to murder Speaker Pelosi that resulted in her husband being hospitalized. But my own close friend, Jeff Flake, was standing next to Steve Scalise when he was shot in an assault in our nation's capital. So words have consequences. Folks who are deranged or at the margins or have trouble managing their anger in too many incidents have been inspired by heated rhetoric. And so my hope is that the convention in Milwaukee, the speech by our former president, will follow the lead of President Biden, who has reached out to former President Trump, and that many of us in the Senate will do the same and reach out and demonstrate how we can work across the aisle to sustain a more positive view and to sustain the sort of nation we need to be. We have to be better than this moment.
And leadership is that is what is going to be most required right now in order to even possibly pull that off in the midst of also continuing to campaign in what always is a hard-fought presidential campaign. These are very difficult, delicate moments that we have found ourselves in as a country and as we're looking at our politics right now. Senator Coons, thank you so much for coming on.
Joining us now, CNN political commentators Jamal Simmons and Margaret Hoover. Thank you both for being here. Let's just speak to that. Jamal, has it completely changed the 2024 presidential rate, this assassination attempt on former President Trump?
You know, I hope so. I hope that things will change. But what we know about change is that people do change when something happens that's big like this, but it requires work. It requires people to sort of continue to make the effort. Well, I hope Donald Trump continues to not go into some of the rhetoric, and maybe others do. He doesn't strike me as the do the work kind of a guy. So I really wonder and worry that after this week wears off, we'll go back to something else. Also, you know, as I wrestle with this and I think about this, we've been through a lot over the last couple of years. We had the pandemic, which nobody really talks about anymore. Right. We had January 6th, where there was a moment of national unity. People died. The attack on the Capitol was a very big deal. That's not really a factor very much anymore in sort of how we talk about things. We had a president who's been convicted of 34 counts. We don't talk about that. Joe Biden had a horrible debate performance, and that's even starting to fade. So it makes me wonder if a month from now, we will still be talking about this horrific event the way we're thinking about it now. And I just wonder if Donald Trump and this event are a part of a new media environment where everything is just pounding us all the time, and we just don't get the kind of import that happens when I was a kid and Ronald Reagan got shot, and we talked about that forever. I don't know that we live in that kind of a media social environment anymore, and it distresses me as an American.
I want to pick up on the last event you brought up there, which was the debate, which was now several weeks ago, and the many calls among Democrats for President Biden to drop out of the race. Margaret, none have come since the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. That seems to have maybe frozen things where they are? No?
Well,
do you think they'll stay frozen?
I think we're taking an incredibly appropriate moment as a country to pause, to come together, to pray for our country, for the victims, for the former president, for the current president, in a completely nonpartisan and apolitical way. And I think all calls about who should be at the top of the ticket on the Democratic side are appropriately frozen at the moment, John, because this isn't a moment for politics. This is still, it's not even been 48 hours. And I do hope, to Jamal's point, we do heed this moment, and we do really relearn, I think, what has become like a muscle memory in our politics and our rhetoric to ramp things up, and rather to have a calm, cerebral, engage in the policy ideas, engage in an arena of ideas, which is the premise of a civil society. Civil discourse is a responsibility of a civil society. And if we can do that and rewire these neural impulses away from heightened rhetoric that is belligerent and pugilistic and towards a calmer place where we can try to solve problems and reason together, that will be the benefit. I agree with Jamal. You know, there is some question about whether this will continue, but for the moment, I think things are appropriately frozen, to your point, John.